Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from beautiful Woodland Hills, California, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to our show. So I'm here at some, it's California.
Swanky hotel?
It is supposed to be swanky. Okay. I didn't pay for it. They put me up at it. But it's, I'm not, everything in California is very, very landscaped and controlled. Oh, there you go. And because of it, it's sort of like you miss out. It's like you're in the country, you get flowers, but everything is sort of like, everything is controlled. The air is controlled and how do you describe this? How do you describe what's going on in California? You don't walk anywhere. It feels like not normal to go for a walk here. But I remember living here, and I know we're actually like sort of like the San Fernando Valley hosts like almost 2 million people, I think. But it was like the original suburbs of Los Angeles, and they built these sort of like what we did in Long Island with Levittown, Long Island. You build these tract homes. So there used to be all beautiful plantations of oranges and grapefruits and lemons, and then they built the tract homes, and that's what I used to actually live here. And there's actually fruit trees growing everywhere, which is actually quite attractive if you're a fruit fan like I am. And so you can literally walk the streets of the valley and pick fruit. Fig trees, orange trees, just growing over people's yards. You can walk through the alleys. It's almost like a paradise. When me and my wife first met, I had a map of all these places in Los Angeles where there's just rogue avocado trees and rogue grapefruit trees and rogue pomegranate trees. It's like in the middle of a parking lot, there'll be just some random tree giving fruit. And we used to just collect all this stuff. That sound cool or crazy?
It sounds beautiful.
It is. And some of the trees, like I know in the valley, some of the trees, the streets are lined with olive trees. One year I picked olives and I cured my own olives. That was sort of a cool experiment. And another year, well, when I first met my wife, she lived in Santa Monica, and her street was lined with carob trees. If you've ever had carob powder, it comes from these long, beautiful pods. And remember that, Bridge? You could chew, you could pull, you break them off the tree. It's like eating caramely chew. It's like eating a candy bar when you're chewing carob pods. I had a really sweet, and then these incredible, a lot of hedges are made of these things they call pineapple guavas. They're tiny little guavas that they just use as an ornamental hedge, but the fruit on them is incredible. And so, yeah, California is blessed with a lot of cool nature things, but I think all of the world probably is just becoming a sprawl. An urban sprawl, and it gets a little sad. You have to go find nature, and it's out there. You just got to dig around to get it. So anyway, yeah, I'm in a very nice but very controlled environment. But I'm happy to be here. And truthfully, between you and I and the people listening on the podcast, I'm on the Joe Rogan podcast today in a few hours, and I'm a little nervous. I don't get nervous. I played shows with my band for so many. Sometimes thousands of people, sometimes 10 people, sometimes thousands of people. And I tell you, I usually don't get nervous. I'm a little nervous.
I think you're going to be okay, Raghu.
Thank you.
I think.
It doesn't air today. It airs Friday.
It airs Friday. Okay, I wanted to know.
It airs Friday.
Do you know what time on Friday?
I have no clue.
See if you can find out.
I'm too nervous. But you know what I did today? I woke up early and I chanted japa. I chanted about 14 rounds. And I read the Bhagavatam.
There you go.
If I try to plan what to say, I'm like this with any class I give. If I plan the class, it's a disaster. But if I just chant,
you definitely don't plan this podcast, right?
This podcast, no.
Yeah.
My planning is in no planning, which means
Right.
it's not planned, and it's planned because on my downtime, I'm always listening to lectures or audio books or reading. So that's how I unplan, is I don't plan at all. But on my downtime, I just take all that in. So when it is time for me to speak, hopefully important, substantial, significant, spiritual things are like pouring out of my mouth. It all depends on the quality of what I hear on a regular basis. And so I find that the best planning I can do before a class is to chant japa really nicely with my brain focused. So I tried to go outside and go for a walk instead. I just, everything's cold in these buildings too. So I just put on a jacket and sat downstairs, my leg crossed, and they blast music like a disc. Am I complaining? I don't mean to complain. I am complaining a little bit. I just want some peace. I just want a little peace. I don't want to hear disco at 5 a.m., Anyway, so I sat there and just chanted. And I'm going to give a shout out to somebody on Instagram called Real Friend Krishna. And they just post these beautiful pictures of Krishna. And I just meditate upon them as I chant japa each morning. It's actually a really nice way to chant japa. Okay. How are you?
Doing good. I'm looking forward to your show. I know you're going to do great, so nothing to worry about. And
thank you. I'm asking everybody to pray.
yeah. And we can just read some more Bhagavatam, and it'll just maybe something will come up that will spontaneously arise in your mind during the show. Who knows?
Yeah, that's why even with all the sort of like the pressure of stuff I'm doing, I felt it was important to do the show today just to keep my little brain in focus too. So thank you everybody for joining us. We got 69 people on our Zoom group. If you're listening for the first time, welcome to our show. We have a Zoom group that is live, so you can all see each other. If you want to join that Zoom group, you have to email us at wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. And Mara, our wonderful executive producer, will hook that up for you. Shall we start?
Let's do it.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I wasn't supposed to say that. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devyam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of our conquest, one should first offer obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya, bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving devotional service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established in the heart as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So if you're new to this show, we do these prayers to the Bhagavatam and to divinity, the Supreme, and to our teachers. And these are like our little morning appreciation, our morning gratitude. It's a great way to start your morning. And if you do any type of puja or spiritual worship to a deity in India, or anywhere, but as you see in these temples of India, it always starts with these appreciations for the teachers, or a mangala charanam, auspicious prayers offered to the lotus feet. That's what mangala charanam means. And the idea is so beautiful, is that in bhakti, we accept that everything that we have is a gift from someone else. Even my spiritual connections have been given to me by someone else. And every morning we wake up, and the first thing was to remember about all these special people that divinity has sent to me in my life. And the more we have the more we become spiritually conscious, the more we realize that so many people have been sent to me to assist me on my path. Our life is actually incredibly magical, but I'm seeing it all in black and white. It's actually incredibly vibrant and colorful. Okay, so these verses are great. I started reading them this morning. As soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, this is Narada speaking, and he's recalling when he was a child. In his previous life. He's recalling his last life. He's having a past life. He's telling us a past life. He has this ability, which is a mystical power called, what's it called? Trikala Gyan. They understand the kala, the three kalas, the three times, and the three times are past, present, and future. So as he said, so he's recalling his previous life as a child, and he was serving great sages. And then he left the service, and then then he was wandering through the forest. I'm giving a little update. And now he's sitting in meditation. He's just a young boy, and he's sitting in meditation with everything that he's learned from these great sages. Okay, so he says, as soon as I began to meditate upon the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, with my mind transformed in transcendental love, tears rolled down my eyes. And without delay, the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, appeared in the lotus of my heart. Isn't that pretty? I lost you, Kaustubha. Kaustubha, you're muted. You never have to mute yourself, my friend. Okay.
I mute myself anyways. Occasionally I mute myself if I'm coughing or something like that. It's a beautiful verse. And kind of what we're seeing in this chapter is almost like a sped up kind of transformation for Narada, right? Like not necessarily sped up, but like a quick transformation.
Well, it was only 4 months hanging out with these sages.
Yes.
It's pretty impressive.
But he was, again, I don't think we should even think like that. In other words, it's like if we qualify ourselves to be receptive to the spiritual power of the instructions of great souls, of the Bhagavatam itself, of the holy names of Krishna and so on, they're powerful, they're effective. Our problem is that we don't receive it very well. Now, we heard earlier about how Narada as a boy, how he was so capable to receive because he was so good-natured and so respectful, etc. That these sages that stayed with him, they could see that, he'll just take it all right in. And he took it in quickly. And they gave him the instructions in Bhakti-yoga, the confidential instructions, understanding ultimately who Krishna is. Then the Lord stepped in, right? And did something that most people would see as, oh my God, what a horrible situation. His only caretaker, his mother, died by a snake bite. But because he had been given that wisdom, that knowledge that he cultivated as wisdom, he was able to see that as actually, this is the Lord's special mercy. And with full detachment, he began to wander. And this is mentioning how he was wandering, and then he was off alone there in the forest, and he sat down. He says, as soon as I began to meditate, it was effective. The whole thing just clicked right in. Then his mind became transformed in transcendental love. Tears rolled down his eyes. That's like the, what do you call it? Like the Sattvika Bhavas?
Sattvika Bhava.
Right?
Prabhupada talks about it a little in the purport.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. He said the word bhava is significant because bhava is used in the Sanskrit. So he said the word bhava is significant here. This bhava stage is attained after one has transcendental affection for the Lord. The first initial stage is called shraddha, or a liking to the Supreme Lord. And in order to increase that liking, one has to associate with pure devotees of the Lord. So shraddha, Prabhupada translates as liking. Another translation would be to some initial faith, some reasonable faith. So, for example, I respect you, and Kaustubha gives me some like instructions. Hey, Raghunath, I've met him, but I don't really know him, but I look up to Kaustubha as a respected senior educator at the Bhakti Center. But I respect him, and it seems like other people that I like respect him. So I have some initial faith, like, my good friend says, oh, Kaustubha gives a great class. Somebody else that I really respect says, Kaustubha taught me so much. So I haven't even met Kaustubha, but because my friends respect him, I have some initial shraddha, or some initial reasonable faith. I respect my friends, I trust their integrity, and they all feel like Kaustubha is pretty intelligent and wise and grounded, so I want to hear. So this is the first stage. We have some reasonable faith. And then he says, for that faith to develop, the more you associate with people who are connected, and that faith starts to develop. And I think a lot of us have experienced that when we get around great souls. We start to like reprioritize our life. Like, wow, what am I doing? What should I be doing now? I had a plan. I had a material plan, but I'm having a paradigm shift. I'm seeing everything different. And when great acharyas and great masters come, we see them, we see how they live, and all of a sudden we were like, what the hell am I doing with my life?
I want to be more like them.
I want to be like this. I want to be like this. And sometimes people do everything, they drop everything. And yeah. And I get it, because we sort of build like a house of cards based on like a faulty assumption that I'm going to get happiness doing this. And when we meet someone who's got sort of like nothing materially, but they're so connected, you realize, what am I doing? Why am I working so hard for what? Paradigm shift.
Okay.
All right. Sorry. A little gabby today. The third stage is to practice the okay. So you meet devotion. So what's the Sanskrit word for that? Sadhusanga.
Sadhusanga. Yeah.
Sadhusanga. And then
so first is shraddha, then sadhusanga. Faith, then associating with great souls, with sadhus.
Yeah. Then the third stage, the practice the prescribed rules and regulations of bhakti, the vidhis, or the instructions. That's called the bhajana kriya. We put this up on the chat board the other day, but a lot of people think in bhakti, it's just sort of like, yeah, I turned on the bhakti switch. Now I'm in love. Now I love God. I love everybody. But there's scientific ways to watch your progression. And now it's speaking of this bhajana kriya. The third stage is to practice the prescribed rules and regulations of bhakti. And this is interesting because this is where things go a little off. And that's why there is an importance of a tradition, because there are rules. And what you'll find two groups of people. People are like, who needs rules? It's all about love. But we have such a warped idea of love that that type of love can be like an orgy. It does. We have a twist on what love is. We'll say, I love hamburgers. I love my wife. I love my child. I love sports. Like that same word love is being used in so many different ways. So so that's why there's sort of rules of love even. And that is called the vidhis, or the instructions, this bhajana kriya. And the guru gives certain things that will affect genuine or bring upon genuine love. And it's not based on it is based on some emotion. But oftentimes we find, and we were saying this the other day, that we say, well, I love him or I love her. And I talked about that time when I was a child, like a 13-year-old, and I'd say, well, I love this girl. Why do I love her? Would I love her if she had no hand? Would I love her if she had no arms? Would I love her if she had no legs? I'm like, what are you actually loving? Do you love the whole package? What point of this sounds really gross, but at what point would you stop loving this person? Okay, I take off one finger. Do you still love her? Yeah, I love her. No finger. How about 3 fingers? You do love her without 3 fingers? Yeah, I love her. How about no arm? Yeah, I love her. How about no arm? You know what I mean? What are we loving? My wife's going, shh. So we start to understand, like, what am I falling in love with? So there are rules and regulations of bhakti. Now, the downside of those rules and regulations are that we get so into the rules and you meet people like this, that they forget having any sentiment in their heart whatsoever. So there's a little delicate dance we're doing. Kaustubha does that dance very nicely. He's very deep spiritually, I find. Yet at the same time, he appreciates the rules. This is called, Lindsay's not here, but someone could put this on the board. Niyamagraha. Mara, can you put that up? Niyamagraha.
Someone just put it up as you said it.
What?
I think.
Yes, Sandra
Sasha
Clemmer.
Look at that.
Sandy,
Nice.
you're on that.
Anticipating.
Niyamagraha. She's so sharp. So Niyamagraha means either very strictly following the rules or blowing off the rules completely. And we're trying to find that tightrope walk in between where the rules are significant, but also there's some genuine deep, like, I'm so attracted that I'm going to blow past some of these rules sometimes. Anyway, we never try to blow past the rules ultimately, but all right. Okay. Anyway, let's continue on.
Okay.
I got to turn off my ringer. Put myself on nighttime mode. Okay. So that was our third step, bhajana kriya. This will dissipate all sorts of misgivings and remove all personal deficiencies that hamper progress in bhakti. When all the misgivings and personal deficiencies are removed.
So that was the fourth stage, by the way, right there.
Oh, did I miss that? What's the fourth stage again?
Anartha nivritti.
Anartha nivritti. It gets rid of the things that have no wealth. The nivritti means
no
like
value. Yeah.
Getting rid of the unartas, no wealth. When all these misgivings and personal deficiencies are removed, there is a standard faith in transcendental matter. There is a standard of faith in transcendental matter.
So I believe that that's referring to nishta, the fifth stage.
Okay. Great word, nishta. And the taste for that increases in greater proportion.
Ruchi, sixth
Ruchi.
stage.
Isn't it great how we're figuring out Prabhupada's translation here? The stage leads to attraction and unalloyed love for God.
So
love that word, unalloyed.
The attraction would be the ashakti.
Right.
And then comes bhava.
Bhava.
And so bhava is said to be the sprout. It's like there's a plant and the sprout just begins to peek up out of the ground. Mm-hmm. So bhava is the sprout of prema. And
it's like there's a lot of work to go before that sprout comes out.
It's a lot of work.
And that's the interesting thing. Before bhava, you can still fall, right? Like you're not
even
perfected.
at bhava.
Even at bhava, you could still fall down. So you might be very, very evolved, but due to some material attachment, and you might have one or two, due to some material attachment, oh man, one of my wandering senses goes to something I'm attached to. You can still fall. And like when you fall, it's like tripping down the stairs. Now, even if you were to die in such a position, you never forget where you're at. And you sort of click yourself in. You divinity in the universe arranges that you meet somebody to pick you right back up where you left off. Isn't that beautiful?
It is.
And this is why sometimes people are like, they hear about bhakti and it's like, of course. And some people, it's just hard to get through. And some people, not in this life, it's not going to happen in this lifetime. You know, maybe just they've got the hardware that doesn't work well for bhakti. Isn't that sad? Don't worry, this life is short.
You'll die.
We're all going to die soon. Don't sweat it. How about this pandemic? Are we all going to die? No. Ava Sullivan, she's like a physician or scientist or something. She says no. Okay, I'm just going to go with Ava. We're not gonna
okay, back to the show.
I was on a plane yesterday. Okay. I'm getting shh. She's like, let it down. Take it down. Take it down.
You got to bring her to the Joe Rogan thing. Honey, take it down a little bit.
Take it down. Okay. All the above different stages are but different stages of development of transcendental love. Being so surcharged with transcendental love, there comes a strong feeling of separation, which leads to different kinds of ecstasies. Ooh. Tears from the eyes of a devotee is an automatic reaction And because Narada Muni in his previous birth attained that stage very quickly after his departure from home, it was quite possible for him to perceive the actual presence of the Lord, which he tangibly experienced by his developed spiritual senses without material tinge. It's so interesting. It's giving you insider information to what it's like to be at these stages. Now, I don't know if he's going to go into it in the purport, Prabhupada, but
This was the purport.
no, in further purports, but you know, there's this thing that Prabhupada brings out. It's a group of people who practice bhakti called sahajyas. You'll hear this word sometimes. And sometimes you see it. Sometimes I see it when I go to India. It's like people hear of these symptoms, like crying, profusely crying. Like it says Lord Chaitanya, when he'd experience these bhavas or these incredible emotions due to being at that level. And tears would just profusely come from, and his hair would stand out, and his body would start to shake. If you're watching on Zoom, you can see me act this out.
Could you do that again?
Yeah, that's like, yeah. So anyway, so people hear of these sattvika bhavas, or these transcendental emotions you're supposed to fear. So what they do is they manufacture them and they fake them. And so Prabhupada always warns about this. It's a sahajya, he calls it. I think a sahajya is a type of an official group.
No, sahajya means like easy.
I don't know if that's true. I think it's an actual. I think it's an actual group, like a Gaudiya Vaishnava.
Well, so sometimes people say our way is the sahajya way. It's like it's the easy way, because but in our lineage it's used with a derogatory implication that people that are taking the process cheaply, they think it's, you know, and so they're faking these symptoms and pretending that they're having it, but not.
They're going
doing
for the altar and they start rolling on the floor or they start crying profusely, and it's just it's fake.
You know, I heard a talk this morning.
Actually, I'm not going to say it's fake, but it's
no, it is fake. That's the point.
Well, I don't know. It's fake.
You see, Prabhupada's alluding to information that's found in the Nectar Devotion in this commentary, which is Srila Prabhupada's translation of Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. These are all really important books in the study of bhakti. And he's alluding to some of the information here. So the word sattvika bhava, it means a pure bhava. And so that means that these symptoms are when we say it's pure, it means it's involuntary. It's not like, I think I'll cry now. It's like it just happens purely without you even wanting to. The hairs on your body stand on end, tears start to pour from your eyes, you get all choked up, you know, things like that. I heard a nice class. I heard it this morning, actually, but it was Rukmini, you know, Rukmini Devi, Gauravani's mother, and, you know, great devotee in her own right. Yeah. And she was just giving class in Mayapur, and she used this term, chili bhava. Have you heard this before?
Chili bhava?
Chili bhava, yes.
No.
It means that there are some kirtan singers that would load their nose with chili so that when they're singing, they'll cry.
Ooh. Is that an appropriate thing to do, or is that
it's an inappropriate thing to
inappropriate do. There you go.
It's an inappropriate
I was like, oh, where can I get chilies?
So they're trying to impress people with their deep devotion, and tears are coming from their eyes as they're singing kirtan because they stuck chilies up their nose. Wow. So
people will really do anything for. You think if you're into this, you want to be pretty authentic and not fake. Who's going to go to that? Who's going to go to chili bob? Yeah, people come for all kinds of reasons.
There's chili bhava of people out there. But here we're hearing about Narada. This was not chili bhava. This was sattvika bhava. This was pure bhava. He was a pure soul, and when he chanted that name, when he did that meditation, it was effective, and so he began to feel transcendental love within the mind. And it says that Sri Krishna appeared on the lotus of his heart. So he felt profoundly Krishna's presence within himself. And this is, you know, we speak a lot on this show saying that, you know, happiness is not true. Happiness is not something to be found externally. It's something that's found within. Now, this is that happening on a very powerful level within, that God sat down on the lotus of my heart. I felt it, you know. And the next verse is going to go deeper into these feelings that he had in that state.
Okay. What number are we on? I lost my phone.
17 now.
Okay. O Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness. Doesn't that sound exciting?
It does.
Every part of my body became separately enlivened. Every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord.
You want to read that one?
Yeah,
Commentary?
these are good. Spiritual feelings of happiness and intense ecstasy have no mundane comparison. Therefore, it is very difficult to give an expression to such feelings. We can just have the glimpse of such ecstasy in the words of Sri Narada Muni. Each and every part of the body or senses has a particular function. After seeing the Lord, all the senses become fully awakened to render service unto the Lord, because in the liberated state, the senses are fully efficient in serving the Lord. As such, in the transcendental ecstasy, it has so happened that the senses became separately enlivened to serve the Lord. This being so, Narada Muni lost himself in seeing both himself and the Lord simultaneously. You know, another important thing to say here is, you can't, just like with the apple tree, I can't force the apples out of a tree. And when the apples do come on the tree, I can't force them to become ripened. You can put them under special grow lights, which but even in that, you can't force the apple out of the flower. So in the same sense, we have to go through these, and the Guru gives these ways to grow on our spiritual path. The tradition gives these ways to grow on our spiritual path, but it will manifest when it manifests. And all we can do is be steady in what we do. And I've had people approach me and say, okay, I want the higher teachings. Give me some higher teachings. The higher teachings are the lowest teachings. Just do the basics. And I find again and again, Kaustubha, you can vouch for this, and devotees, people who are initiated can be, people get lost in these higher teachings. I want to know these esoteric teachings. And it's almost a downfall for some devotees I see. They want to know the higher teachings, but they haven't fully embraced the simplest ABCs. And they're trying to build this beautiful castle with no foundation. They can't stop criticizing people, finding fault, blaming the world for their situation. They get offended on a regular basis. This is why I'm doing that whole book on 6 pillars, is because it's foundational and it's important. And you can't even talk about these, oh, what are the names of the gopis? What are the names of the gopis and the gopis' assistants and the assistants of the gopis? I want to be an assistant of the gopi. It's like, stop criticizing people. Control your senses. Have a good marriage. Come on. You want to take it to some next level. Just try to be a good, kind person. Be nice to the person collecting your toll at the toll booth. Be nice to the mailman. You got to sometimes take it back to zero. And then you hear people like arguing and hating other people who are practicing bhakti because they have a slight nuanced vantage point of the absolute truth. It's ridiculous. What do you think, Kaustubha?
I think that's why before we get to the 10th canto, which is going to describe that intimate divine love, we have 9 cantos to really understand what bhakti is, to really understand who we are and where we are, like where do we lie on this path, right?
Right.
We in the commentary that we just read, there's faith and there's sadhu sangha, and then there's bhajana kriya. And can either you or I say that we've passed through anartha nivritti, that we've given up all unwanted, unvaluable things in our heart, and that we're fixed?
I think I'm like, I don't know, 10 minutes away from Baba personally. I'm trying to weigh it. Ever try to figure that one out? Like, where am I?
Try to work it out before you get on the Joe Rogan show, okay?
Ever try to figure out,
Raghu
like,
walks
where
into
am
Joe
I on
Rogan
this ladder? Am I
on
at
the level of
Am I
Bob.
still at the very bottom, or am I somewhere like up there? Better. I think it's better just not to think about stuff like this.
Well, the point is that important work that we do in Vajrana Kriya and Anartana Vritti, that's such important. It's like, let's recognize our own shortcomings and let's address them. That's where we're going to make our real transformation. And so, just to come to a level where we're fixed, when we meet a devotee that's on that level, it's like, that's a rare soul in this world that lost interest in all other things, has given up all sense of false identity and is just fixed in service. That is a great, great soul, just that. And that's before the sprout of divine love has even begun to peek out from underneath the ground.
Well, I'm really good at helping other people find their shortcomings. Doesn't that count for anything?
I don't know if that fits in on one of the levels. That's finding faults in others.
For their benefit, of course.
For their benefit.
For their benefit. For their spiritual elevation.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's read that. That's the transit. What number are we on?
18 now.
18. Here's the purport.
Of
that
what,
the
17?
Lord, what's that?
Which purport are you reading? 17?
18. Do we do, okay.
We haven't read 18 yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so here's 17.
We read 17 and the purport, I believe.
Okay,
So now
okay,
we're on
sorry
18.
about that. Sorry about that. The transcendental form of the Lord, as it is, satisfies the mind's desire and at once erases all mental incongruities. I think I have some mental incongruities. Upon losing that form, this is good. Upon losing, so he's meditating on this form. Upon losing that form, I suddenly got up, being perturbed, as is usual when one loses that which is desirable. Here's his form. He's seeing the form of the Lord sitting on the lotus of his heart, and all of a sudden it goes away. And then he's just like, that Lord is not formless. That the Lord is not formless is experienced by Narada Muni, but his form is completely different from all forms of our material experience. Isn't that cool? For the whole duration of our life, we go see different forms in the material world, but none of them is just apt to satisfy the mind, nor can any one of them vanish all perturbance of the mind. I think that is such a cool statement. These are the special features of the transcendental form of the Lord, and one who has seen that form is not satisfied with anything else. No form in the material world can any longer satisfy the seer. That the Lord is formless or impersonal means that he is nothing like a material form and is not like any material personality. Isn't it interesting? We're chasing forms in the material world, but there's no form that will actually satisfy. You can't actually consume that form. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a form. Like, oh, I like a form like this. I like a form like that. And we run. We go to the gym. We wake up. I buy certain cologne. I get a haircut. I shave to attract myself. So I'll be attractive to a particular form. Freud said the whole material creation's going on this. I want to be attractive to other forms. And there's a form that my mind thinks is attractive. And no matter how many forms there is, it will not. And what do you do once you get the form? You embrace the form. Does that actually satisfy? It's not a form-shaped hole. It's a God-shaped hole. And I'm trying to shove different forms in that hole.
And then none of them erase the mental incongruities.
No. Matter of fact, they get me wrapped deep. And so, it's not that form. I don't like that form. I like this form. I like this form. And I get bored with that form. And I switch forms all the time. And the problems with the forms in the biggest picture is, the biggest picture is we won't actually fulfill what we are because we're spiritual beings. But if I'm just merely attracted to the flesh of the form, the flesh and bones of the form, guess what? The flesh melts. That's what forms do. The flesh melts. The flesh, I mean, I'm looking at my
Flesh
face on a
melts.
regular basis. You know, these hotel mirrors, they're like, ever see those mirrors that you turn on? I call them the reality mirrors. Like, I thought it was pretty attractive. Turn this light switch, all of a sudden, I'm just noticing, even this morning, I was like, I got something on my face. I got some welt on my face this morning. Where did that come from? I'm noticing hair growing and higher up now. It used to be right in the beard line. Now it's creeping up towards my eye. I'm like a wolf. Like a chimpanzee. As I get older, the form gets. I used to actually like the smell of my body. Now I'm like, on a regular basis, I say things like, I smell. And you know what? You get to this point when you're younger, you can't even smell your own. People can smell you, but you can't smell yourself. I'm at that age where now I officially smell myself. I'm like, and I do all the appropriate things not to smell. I bathe. I put on various scents.
What scents do you put on?
I put armpit scent on. Sometimes an oil that I'm offering to a deity. Sometimes when I'm really smelly, I'll douse myself with some aftershave thing, but not too much because I don't want to seem like I'm one of those guys. It still doesn't work. My human body smell penetrates past all the fake smells.
I'm going to be honest with you, Raghu. I haven't noticed. So I think you're okay.
Hang out.
Either I'm insensitive or you smell okay.
Well, I smell because I can smell it. But anyway, the point is we're attracted to forms, and the forms are sort of like decomposing right in front of us. And that's why. And if you don't get that, you'll always just run around looking for a newer form. I need a fresher new form. You're not going to find it. We're spiritual beings. There's no material form that's going to fulfill your spiritual. And we spend so much time trying to make our form fit. And, you know, I get pretty strong, and then I want to get stronger. And it's like becomes like almost an obsession. I got to get bigger and stronger and thicker, and my neck becomes thick. Where are we going with all this? How big are we going to get? How big are my male breasts going to get to feel like now I've got the form?
I don't know how big they'll have to get, Raghu. I don't know.
There's never an amount. There's never an amount.
Doesn't matter how big they get.
Okay. I'm getting the cue to move on. Okay. Anyway, I think these are important things.
That's the honey. It's getting weird now. Let's read the next verse.
She's giving the reel it in symbol. Okay. The transcendental. Okay. All right.
I desired. So let me say something, Raghu. Let me say something.
Please save them.
So Narada. So Narada, as this boy, he sat down. He meditated effectively. And he achieved the goal of the meditation. He saw the Lord's form within himself. And when he saw that, he experienced a level of happiness and satisfaction and thrill that we cannot imagine, right? It's kind of beyond what we experience in the form that we're in now. So the tears were coming, and he felt it mentions all the different parts of his body felt enlivened at the same time. Something very special took place. And wow, what the sages told me was right. And I did it. And now I'm experiencing it. And then in an instant, it disappeared. So part of the understanding in Bhakti is that we don't see this path as ascending, but we see it as descending, right? Now, if I'm practicing, like, say, Ashtanga Yoga or Jnana Yoga, these paths are generally thought of as ascending. By my own power, by my own renunciation, I will achieve a state of spiritual accomplishment and experience some kind of for me at level. Now, Narada, he saw this vision of Vishnu, but then in an instant, it disappeared. It wasn't something that he could make happen. It was something that was given to him. And we're see the same thing happens. Narada is going to have another disciple that we'll read about in the 4th canto called Dhruva. And Narada will give Dhruva similar instructions that he received in his previous life. He'll give them to Dhruva about how to practice meditation. And then Dhruva sees Lord Vishnu. And then the same thing happens is Lord Vishnu disappears from his vision as well. So we try to make ourselves receptive to that mercy. And we understand that it is something that's granted to us. It's not something that by one's own power they can take, but it has to be given. So it was given to him, and then it was taken away. And then the Lord's going to explain why he took it away. Coming up.
That was previews.
Yeah,
by Kaustubha.
coming up right away. Or we run out of time.
No, we're going to go 5 minutes later because we
Okay,
started,
because we
a little
started
later. It's okay. Okay. Text, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Text 19. I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart with eagerness to view the form again, I could not see him anymore, and thus dissatisfied, I was very much aggrieved. There is no mechanical process to see the form of the Lord. It completely depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord.
That's what I was just saying.
You were just saying that. I love when that happens. We cannot demand the Lord to be present before our vision, just as we cannot demand the sun to rise whenever we like. The sun rises out of his own accord. So also the Lord is
saying that about fruit, right? You're saying we can't make
it. Can't make it
happen.
We're in the flow, Kaustubha. This is what they call the flow.
Man, you're going to be flown by the time you get on Joe Rogan. Forget about it.
I'm going to do the flow or the freeze, one or the other. He gets 200 million downloads a month. 200 million downloads a month.
Don't think about that, Raghu.
Okay.
Think about our little. You're talking to the Zoom people, to the wisdom of the sages people when you're on there. Just think of our own family. Don't think about the 200 million.
I know. Okay. There isn't. Okay. There isn't. No. It completely depends on the causeless mercy of the Lord. We cannot demand the Lord to be present before our vision, just as we cannot demand the sun to rise. Okay. The sun rises out of its own accord. So also the Lord is pleased to be present out of his causeless mercy. One should simply await the opportune moment and go on discharging his prescribed duty in devotional service. Narada thought that the Lord could be seen again by the same mechanical process, which was successful in the first attempt. But in spite of his utmost endeavor, he could not make the second attempt successful. I mean, come on. If you've been around the Bhakti thing for a while, you don't even know, but some days you just get this, oh my God, this incredible taste of Bhakti. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I did it. I chanted my rounds. I went to a holy place, whatever it was. You got went to a kirtan, you got something. And then all of a sudden it just goes away. And it's like, where is it? I'm doing the same thing I did yesterday. It's not here. And that's what Krishna does. He's such a trickster. He just goes in and gives you a little taste, and then he takes that taste away, and you start to become almost like insane and try, where is Krishna? How can I find Krishna? Where is that boy? That happens, or you start to think, wait a second, is this crazy? Is this weird? Is this, you get this like intense type of high, or you start to question everything. Well, maybe this isn't real. It's happening. It's happening to us. What he's experiencing right now, it's happening to us on the most pedestrian level. You get a little taste and he disappears. And in that like addiction where I need more, we push forward. We push past that ceiling. By the way, I went to a health food store. There's a great health food store in the Valley called Follow Your Heart. You might buy their Vegan-A's, Follow Your Heart brand. Great store. I used to go there 20 years ago when I lived here. And they were selling Shiva lingams. They have a gift shop. Incredible Shiva lingams, which you're not supposed to sell. But they were so beautiful, I almost bought them all. They were big, beautiful. It said these are from the Narmada River. want to share anything about Shiva Lingams, Kaustubha?
That's a real.
They're these beautiful, like
really
egg-shaped stones.
sidetrack.
It's a sidetrack. I just had to share that. Matter of fact, I'm going to post some pictures on our Telegram thread.
Okay, I'm gonna pass on that for now.
Okay, you can't sell. You're not supposed to sell, right? Govardhan Shilas,
Shiva Lingams.
Shalagram
How do you get a
Shilas.
Shiva Lingam then? If nobody's gonna sell it, where do you get one?
Well, they probably went to India and got them, and people like them because they're beautiful. And so, I mean, they did, in Haridwar and Vrindavan, you can find people selling Shalagram Shilas. Also, you're just not supposed to buy it.
Yeah, but you said you're not supposed to sell a Shiva Lingam, but how someone's supposed to sell one? Like that's a whole thing.
They don't know you're not supposed to sell them. You're cutting out. Is your internet bad or is mine? I paid for the expensive internet today.
I can't tell.
Okay, I'm going to go on.
It's Kaustubha's.
Yeah, let's go on.
It's Kaustubha's got the bad internet. Oh my God.
Sorry.
Okay. So yeah, someone wrote in Nancy Rothman, the dark night of the soul. It's when that spiritual taste gets taken away from us. That can either bring you higher or bring you lower. So you got to be careful. That's when you got to work extra hard. Just keep pushing forward. When that taste goes away, that's when you got to keep showing up. What the heck? Can you read this? There is an alarm going off in my room. Kaustubha,
sure. Text 19. I desired to see again that transcendental form of the Lord, but despite my attempts to concentrate upon the heart of the eagerness to view that form again, I could not see him anymore, and thus dissatisfied, I was very much grieved. Seeing my attempts in that lonely place, the personality of Godhead, who is transcendental to all mundane description, spoke to me with gravity and pleasing words just to mitigate my grief. So he disappeared from his vision, but then he heard the voice of the Lord. And this is what the Lord says to Narada. Text 21. You want to read it, Raghu?
Yes. This is going to be our last one, I think. Oh, Narada, okay. The Lord spoke. I regret that during this lifetime, you will not be able to see me anymore. Oh, my God. Imagine getting that message from God.
Well, if he's talking to you, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Those who are incomplete in service and who are not completely free from all material taints can hardly see me.
Let's read this one again tomorrow because it's
okay.
I think worth reading.
Should I read the purport a little?
Oh, if we got time now, then let's do it.
Yeah. The personality of God is described in the Bhagavad Gita as the most pure, the supreme and the absolute truth. There is no trace of a tinge of materiality in his person.
Okay, hot seat.
Oh, boy. Go ahead.
Where in the Bhagavad Gita is he described that way?
The personality of Godhead is described in the Bhagavad Gita as the most pure, supreme, absolute truth. Pavritam itam uttamam.
Yeah, what is it? Param Brahma, Param Bhavam, Pavitram idam uttamam.
Yakshagavamam dharmyam. It's 7-2.
No, it's 10.
Pavritam itam uttamam. Pratyakshagavamam dharmyam susukam kartamavyam.
It's 10-12.
10-12.
And 13.
Pavritam idam uttamam.
Yeah, spoken by Arjuna.
Oh, wait a second.
Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, you are the highest.
Param Brahma, Param Dhamma. Okay.
You are the most pure.
Well, I got it right. I just got the number wrong.
Yeah. Well done. You passed.
Thank you. There is no trace of a...
You're gonna kill it on Joe Rogan. You're getting the hot seat thing right.
There is no trace. I'll put on my Instagram stories when I'm gonna walk over there today, and you guys can give me some, cheer me on.
All right.
There is no trace of a tinge of materiality in his person, and thus one who has the slightest tinge of material affection cannot approach him.
The slightest tinge.
Slightest tinge. The beginning of devotional service starts from the point when one is freed from at least two forms of the material modes, namely the mode of passion and the mode of ignorance. The signs of being freed from kama, or desires, or lust, and lobha, covetousness, This is mine. That is to say, one must be freed from the desire of sense gratification and avarice. An avarice for sense. What does that mean? An avarice for sense gratification.
Mara?
Mara, come on, Mara, you went to private school. What does avarice for sense gratification mean?
A distaste for?
You are saved by the bell, Mara. Anyway, thanks to everyone who's been joining us. It was late in the day, but we had about 67, 70 people at one point. Really grateful everybody showed up. Thanks, and actually even more people because we have a lot of divine couples watching, divine pets, divine children. And tomorrow I'm going to Ojai. I don't know, and I'm going for a hike in the morning. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it tomorrow. And the next day I'll let you know later. I should have figured this out before, Kaustubha. But thanks for everybody joining us on our podcast. I appreciate that. We do this pretty much every day. And you can binge watch them as well. Binge listen. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us a review. 5-star reviews help our ranking. Write us a little message. And you can also watch it on YouTube. You can hit the bell and subscribe. And you can write us a little review on that as well. Really grateful for everybody here giving me accountability for studying the Bhagavatam every day. Love you, Kaustubha. And thanks to everybody joining us on YouTube. And everybody write me or say a prayer for me today that I don't blunder and fumble and say something stupid. Thank you very much.
You got it, Raghu. Ready?
Maybe I should just do this on the Joe Rogan show. Jai Shri Krishna Bora Jai Radhe. If I just walk in the door doing this, Jai Shri Krishna Bora Jai Radhe. It'll be a good entrance, that's for sure. You might as well just start off like, okay, this guy's crazy. What's he going to say? Thanks, everybody. Hari, hari.
Ready?